Welcome to the Georgia Archives Virtual Lunch and Learn program. I'm Penny Cliff, Education Specialist here at the Georgia Archives. We are so glad that you have joined us for our August presentation, The Memory Lab at Middle Georgia Regional Library, presented by Muriel Jackson. If you have friends or family who are unable to view this live event, they still can enjoy this presentation as it will be uploaded to the Georgia Archives YouTube channel. In this presentation, you will learn how the Memory Lab at Washington Memorial Library came to life after years of training and planning. Muriel is the Middle Georgia Regional Library Systems Head of the Genealogical and Historical Room and will share what the Memory Lab is, the library's motivation for securing a lab, and how the pandemic postponed completion. In Muriel's presentation, you will take a look inside the lab from the eyes of patrons, hear community feedback and stories, and how other library systems are considering adding a memory lab with the library's support, knowledge, and feedback. Muriel began her library career at the Middle Georgia Regional Library System as a microfilm librarian in 1990. After 3 years, she was promoted to the Middle Georgia Archives, where she has flourished, collecting and documenting local history. Her next step is to make the collection more accessible through the use of digital technology. She holds a master's degree in library science from Atlanta University and a specialist degree in library science from University of South Carolina. Muriel serves on several local boards and is the 2020 recipient of the Jenny Thurston Award for Lifetime Achievement in the field of historic preservation from the Historic Macon Foundation. Now, Muriel will answer any of your questions at the end of her presentation. We are very pleased to welcome Muriel Jackson.
Thank you so much, Penny. I'm glad to be here this afternoon and really kind of explain what a memory lab was or is to those of us who really didn't know what it was, like I didn't when I applied. The Memory Lab program was sponsored by the grant by the Institute of Museums and Library Services. We worked with the Memory Lab of DC Public Library, who started all of this, and of course, we at the Middle Georgia Regional Library. A little bit about our system. We have 7 counties, Bibb, Baldwin, Crawford, Jones, Twiggs, and Wilkinson County, in 18 physical locations, and this includes our Library Wild, which is a mobile programming and bookmobile item. The location is also the location of the Middle Georgia Archives, which was created in 1978. And the archives consist of the normal things: papers, photographs, negatives, audiovisuals, art, and artifacts. So what is a memory lab? A memory lab is a do-it-yourself program consisting of 3 key components. It's a lab with equipment for transferring audio, video, and scanning photographs, documents, and slides in a public computing space. Digital preservation classes, curricula, and training for the public. And a website with equipment and workflow instructions and resources for long-term storage and preservation of analog and digital materials. What is the Memory Lab Network? The Memory Lab Network is a project of the DC Public Library, which is funded by the Institute of Museums and Library Services through the National Leadership Grant. They wanted to build a network of digital preservation programs in public libraries across the United States based on the DC Public Memory Lab model. Through this application, libraries were identified as Memory Lab project partners. All partners have received training, mentoring, and financial support to create the digitization stations and the curricula to build public knowledge and skills around the complex and paralyzing problems of personal digital archiving through our own Memory Lab programs. The Memory Lab, once you've completed the program, and once you are accepted into the program and complete your application and you are accepted, it is a 2-year agreement. So beginning in September of 2019, 2 staff members from our location started to dedicate 10 hours weekly to building the lab and contributing to the project. In the end, the library is responsible for maintaining this lab once the project has ended. How ours took shape. When you are applying for this grant, there are a number of things to consider. The first time is the staff commitment, the time necessary to learn about using the equipment. So you're doing training on setup, using and maintenance of the equipment, the time necessary to devote to helping patrons learn, and most of all, the cost. The next thing you need to look at is the setup. Where do we have the space to set it up? How much space do we have? What types of formats do we want to work with? Do we want to just do scanning of slides, negatives, and photographs? Or do we want to help people and work on converting digital videos? And the most important, of course, is there space for the lab and equipment? One thing DC Public encourages you, as you're thinking about setting up this space, do you plan to eventually expand outward, say to audio, such as reel-to-reel? So there's a lot to take into consideration. It's not just saying we're going to put this item here. Do you want this to protect it behind a locked space? Do you have the staff to sit there and watch the equipment every day? And interest. Is there a general interest from the community for a lab? Because in writing your application to participate, you were selected on the community interest and the commitment they're willing to put into it, the library system size, population served, and the diversity of the people you'll be working with. Our motivation. The motivation in 2017, our local Macon Symphony Orchestra disbanded because of funding, and they just weren't getting the turnout that they wanted to. And they decided to disband and regroup later down the road. Well, around mid-2018, they contacted me about placing all of their items. We had a small collection on the orchestra, placing the rest of their items there. Of course, I said, sure. They arrived with about 10 cardboard boxes of VHS and cassette tapes. And I looked at these boxes and thought, I don't have a way to convert this. Is there even a way anymore? Because this is technology that no longer, it still exists, but it's slowly going away. So I saw the grant application totally by accident, asked permission if I could apply for the grant to see, and I applied. And then on September 16, 2019, we received word that we were part of the second cohort for the DC Public cohort. Well, we were surprised. I went through and looked. As you see on this slide, we've got people from Louisiana, Arkansas, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and 2 libraries from California. Well, the first cohort consisted of libraries from Kentucky, Florida, Texas, 2 from California, 1 from Minnesota, and 1 from Colorado. And the diversity is, for instance, one of the ones is Carrick Tribal Libraries in Happy Camp, California. So there was a variety of people, places, and collections that were needed to be saved, but all of the one common denominators are all public libraries trying to save their local history. Now, the proposed timeline that we are given as we start to participate is September through December of 2019. You start looking at training camp webinars. We see these various videos, and we actually use a program called Slack, which allows us to have conversations, and we're made aware of any changes or anything else. We log in and find out what we needed. We can also talk to our current cohort as well as see what previous cohort members did to solve various problems. So it was very helpful to start out that way. And then January of 22, you have the Memory Lab Boot Camp, which 2 staff members from each library came. We went to a 3-day in-depth preservation camp in Washington, D.C. And then as you move forward in February and March, you're looking at planning and deciding how you want to do things. Well, by June of 2021, everything should be completed, which includes visitors from DC to overlook the program so they can report back to the IMLS that the money was well spent and it's active. That's the proposed timeline. This was our timeline. September through December, we went for the training. Like I said, the Slack communication is a wonderful software tool that works very well. Slack is a wonderful set of software tools that allows you to work with various other people in your cohort, which is very wonderful. We did go to DC in January, but they extended it to 5 days because of the travel time, as well as after the first cohort, they found out they needed more training time, and we were able to visit a number of very beautiful libraries. We went to the Library of Congress to see how their memory lab was set up, and so we attended various small library programs and so forth. February and March, we started meeting in our library to talk about what equipment we needed to purchase, because a lot of the things you need, you try to get donated. And then March 15th, 2020, we were shut down due to the pandemic. To the right, you'll see our flyer that we put out that we were going to be closed physically until April 1st, but we had a lot of digital items. You could go online and still have services. Well, April 1st came and went, and we were still out. Finally, on May 1st, we were able to return to the library in staggered scheduling so that none of us were too close to each other, as we had, as we all know, we had no idea what was going on with this disease. June 1st, we had a full staff back working at the library. We were still not open to the public completely. We were doing curbside, but we were still trying to help people. And the decision was made to move forward with the memory lab. Well, at this point, DC Public is closed, so we don't have a lot of their input when we ask questions. July 2020, we sent out our public technology donation requests for the public and the community asking for various items. And by some miracle, April 1st, 2021, the Memory Lab at Washington Library opened. We had one patron visit that day. We had 5 scheduled visits, but only one person came. DC Public Library training. These are images of the DC Public Library Memory Lab that was moved to a smaller library called the Northwest Library Branch. The headquarters library was actually being renovated, and so they had to move all of their items to another location. As you can see, they've got it on their do-it-yourself digitization, and the other computers in front actually have nothing to do with the digitization lab. They're just the standard computers that the public has to use. This is what we worked with when we were at DC Public. This is what's called an audiovisual rack. The main items that we worked with and learned to use were the second shelf is actually the VHS equipment that they had. The third shelf is the CRT, which is the television monitor, which is perhaps, it is the most difficult thing to get as technology has changed. And television stations and broadcasting no longer use this type of monitor because there's better quality out there. But as we said, we're using antiquated technology, so we have to use something that will hook up to it. On the 4th shelf below the monitor, you see that small box that looks like a little mini modem. That's what's called a time-based corrector. That was something totally new to me. But what it actually does is when you have fluorescent lights, it helps to keep them from, they emit I don't know if it's a pulse or what, but when you're trying to copy things that's through VHS and so forth with this technology, you can get jumping and nothing's lined up, and that helps take care of that. We also have what's called a cooling pad we put on our racks to keep the technology from overheating, because you keep it on most of the day when people are using things. This is a list of the standard equipment we were given. The Macintosh desktop, which would be used for the video items, and we had a standard computer, Microsoft-based, IBM-based computer running Windows for the flatbed scanner to do photograph slides and negatives. One thing people thought was interesting, why we needed a nasal aspirator, and that was actually used, you squeeze it to blow off any dust off of your scanner before you put any images down to protect it. We did send out a request for technology, and we started it off with, as technology advances, many in the community are left with irreplaceable memories trapped in outdated, decaying media. To help community members recover this memory, we are looking for equipment donations for a new memory lab. The Memory Lab will enable community members to access freely, publicly available self-digitized conversions. The Memory Lab at Washington Library will have the equipment to convert audio, video content, and images from legacy media to digital. We plan to support all audio-visual formats, but in order to be able to convert and preserve this, we needed donations. And so this is just the list we sent out: CRT video monitoring, video decks, VHS case adapters, and so forth. So this went out. In the meantime, we are attempting to purchase what we can. And the difficulties in just locating things, a lot of vendors had closed down to COVID. They couldn't work. Items were out of stock or no longer being produced or no longer being replaced. As we know today, you have problems getting a lot of items because of the computer chips. And as with the CRT monitor, new technology had replaced that style. So we had to really search far and wide, looking for replacement monitors. We located a few, we talked to the vendors, and they informed us that it would not work with what we were trying to do. So we were happy for their honesty in letting us know that what we had asked was not going to be possible with their technology. Part of the policies and procedures in learning and coming in to use the Memory Lab, first you must watch instructional videos before you can book the lab. And we have 3 of them. They talk about scanning, instructional guides, and negatives. You need to check the availability and book your appointment. All of this is online. You must have your Pines Library card to book a session. They last 3 hours. You sign a release form that explains the Memory Lab policies and that we are not liable for anything that you're doing if it doesn't work correctly. If you're younger than 17, we do have parental request, consent is required. We ask that you arrive at your sessions 15 minutes early. You check in with the staff at the information desk. They inspect your digital media to ensure that it will not harm our equipment. You present your library card at this time. They point you to the Memory Lab. In order to protect your property and the Memory Lab equipment, we ask that if you step away from the lab at any time, please notify the staff so that we may lock the lab to protect everything. Now I'm going to show you one of the videos. We've got 3, just a little bit so you can get an idea how the lab is set up. Just a second.
Welcome to our training video on scanning negatives and other transparencies. If you haven't watched our other training video for the scanners, please do so now. So first off, we want to take off the inner cover on the top of the scanner. You can see the little tabs here. And you're going to find that once you have both those top tabs off, you can just remove the whole thing. And you can see the glass underneath. At which point you can just tuck that right into the top.
I am going to stop this one and change over to a different one.
Hi, my name is Tim. Welcome to the Memory Lab. Here we provide equipment for digitizing home movies, as well as scanning photographs and even negatives. The Memory Lab is based on a DIY model for do-it-yourself, which means we train you how to do it, and you actually see the process through from beginning to end. The Memory Lab here at Washington Memorial was made possible by a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. The lab can be reserved for 3-hour sessions. Reserve up to 2 appointments per day in advance. And of course, you have the option to stay longer if there are no appointments after you. Here at the lab, we can convert VHS and VHS-C videotapes into digital formats. We can also scan photos, slides, and negatives into digital formats. Memory Lab users will have to provide their own flash drive, hard drive, or of course cloud storage to take home the end product. Okay, let's get to work. The video set of our lab consists of an iMac computer and a rack containing a VCR, monitor, and accessories. To turn on the rack, locate the switch at the top right corner. Once turned on, the monitor should look like this, and the VCR should look like this. To use the iMac computer, turn on the wireless mouse first. Once turned on, moving the mouse and clicking should allow you to wake up the computer. do the same.
Okay. This just gives a brief overview of our lab. The other one I would like to show is the one that talks about.
Welcome to our training video.
Trying to get to the one that shows, but in this you can see our scanning for the our section for the negatives in the slides there, so we don't need to see that one again. But that kind of gives you, you can look at any three of these videos, you can look at them over and over. And we even have people that look at the videos while they're there to be feeling comfortable while using the equipment. At a certain point, it becomes secondhand. But if you do get in trouble, you're more than welcome to ask the staff for help. Opening day, the day we weren't sure we would ever feel like we would ever see. April 1st, 2021, the Memory Lab opened at Washington Library. Like we said, there's types of media at that point that we can accept right now are VHS, VHS-C, which are the smaller cassettes, photos, slides, negatives. As you see, we have a 4x5 negative, and a lot of us know about 35mm negatives, and here are the slides, and then of course regular photographs and videos for our video conversion. This is another view of the lab that we have here, the video station, the scanner station, and then our technology specialist working on taking this out. When you take this little piece out here, it allows you to scan negatives and slides because you have the actual light going between the two of them. And opening day here.
The Middle Georgia Regional Library's new memory lab is now open so you can collect your past to preserve your future. Cassandra Jackson White is the first person to use the lab at Washington Memorial Library when it opened Thursday morning. She digitized a box filled with old family photos. She says the project is a gift for her father, who turns 100 years old this year.
We sorted everything last night. I think I was a little bit too ambitious, but at least this is a great service that is available for everyone to take advantage and preserve the family history.
Muriel Jackson is responsible for creating the Memory Lab. She's the head of the Middle Georgia Archives and the Genealogical and Historical Room at the library. McDowell Jackson says there were places locally similar to the lab, but you had to pay to use the resources. She says having this free service available makes a difference.
All about preservation. And eventually people may discover things they didn't know. They might be wanting to go ahead and copy to the archives or help preserve it.
Cassandra says she's grateful the lab is free because she looked into digitizing photos elsewhere and noticed how costly it is. She says the process of digitizing the old photos is bittersweet, and now her children will see them too.
It puts you right back at that moment. You know, the ones with my family, what we were doing, what we were thinking, some experiences.
McDowell Jackson says it'll be up to the community to keep the lab going with equipment donations. She says the lab can convert video, negatives, slides, and photographs right now, but will eventually convert to other systems if they get the necessary equipment.
It may not be if they can live, but you're part of our region and so forth. It's here to be used by the citizens who make it work to the regional library system.
In Macon, Ariel Schiller, 41 NBC News.
The statistics that we have gathered so far, we've been open, and this is like through April 1st, 122 days. We've had 57 appointments, and of those, 31 were repeat customers. Mrs. Jackson Watt, that was on the video, she's returned back at least 3 times to work on her Rubbermaid tub full of pictures. We have had our training videos that were viewed online 186 times. As Penny stated, other libraries have become interested in this as more is known about it. We had visitors from as far away as Atlanta, Texas, that's in Cass County. When they left, we gave them a button that said, "I'm from Atlanta, Texas, not Atlanta, Georgia." We've also had the Henry County Library System come in May of 2021 to see what it was all about. They're pictured in the top picture, and the Cass County librarians are pictured in the bottom picture. Frequently asked questions that we get is, one, where is the Memory Lab located? And it's located on the 2nd floor of the Washington Library. About 10 years ago, we had a massive renovation that created a gigantic computer lab, and we had 3 study rooms, and we made the decision to convert the middle study room into the lab because we could lock the door, things would be protected, and people could work on things quietly without being disturbed by any noises of other patrons. The hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 to 7:45, because our library hours are 10 to 8. We start shutting down everything 15 minutes before so people can gather their items and leave. And then Friday through Saturday, our regular hours are 10 to 6, but we're open 10 to 5:45. Is it required to have an appointment to use the lab? Yes, it is. If we require an appointment because you do need to know who's coming. We just don't want someone to show up with a tub full of photographs or videos and can't get in. Each session is 3 hours, and we do encourage you to arrive about 15 minutes early so that we can get you set up. And you can reserve up to 2 appointments a day, and if no one else is there, you can stay longer. Who can use the Memory Lab? Hines Library card holders. And if you do not have a card, the library staff can sign you up free of charge to get a Pines Library card. Our closest restriction would be the age policy. Reservations can be made by Pines card holders 13 and older, but parental consent is needed for any patron under the age of 17, and they must have the adult supervision to protect the equipment and so forth. Future plans. We want to expand to audio conversion, but that's all dependent on donations and what equipment we're able to locate to take us to that next level. We eventually hope to create a couple of mobile memory lab scanning stations with community scan days in all 7 counties for people to view. Now, the Georgia Public Library has the perfect setup for us to base ours on for that. They offer what's called a DigiKit that libraries can borrow with scanners in 2 different sizes. And the loaner program allows libraries to borrow these and have access to that technology. For instance, they have this gigantic large format scanner, which is the one similar to the one that we had. They're not cheap. This one costs $2,800. And you also get all the slides, the adapters, and everything else you need, the cabling. And your library would borrow this for you and work with you to set up a scanning day. And they also have a much smaller portable one, but they're very nicely protected items. So you've got this capability as well. There are a lot of things going on in technology today for people to work with. Are there any questions?
Okay, what is the main type of format that people are bringing in? Is it photographs or is it VHS?
I think it's equally divided. I've had patrons who I knew personally who came in with their VHS tapes. Because in the 70s and 80s we had our VHS machines. In the 60s you had your reel-to-reel cameras, and people are bringing those in because they are the oldest technology and the least stable. And we've had people who've come in and they're sitting there crying because, say their mother or grandmother's in that video and they passed on, and this is the first time they're hearing their voice in a number of years. People are bringing, but like the lady in our video, she brought in a whole Rubbermaid tub of things. I've had people say, we've got to get these scanned, and then they send them out to family members to help identify the individuals in the photographs.
Let's see. My county of residence, Coweta, is not part of the Pine system. Do you know of other libraries, archives that are doing something like this that I can use?
At this point, I don't know of any Georgia libraries that are doing it. Like I said, we've had Henry County came, Newton County will be coming to see it, so they may be working on it. But it's not inexpensive, but even though you're not part of Pines, you can get a Pines library card because that is a statewide system. Now, to even set this type of lab up is not cheap. I brought the total cost scale that we were given by the DC Public Library, and it roughly cost us $9,100 to get the basic equipment we needed. And then it was another $250 to get things like cleaning packs and the things to clean, because you have to keep the VCRs clean and so forth. Perhaps your most expensive item would be the flatbed scanner. And most of us got Epson because Epson right now has the best quality in scanners and having the capability of doing all in one with the slides and negatives and so forth. The next most expensive piece, and you need to get a really good one if you can, for the video is the VHS deck. But we still accept other older VHS decks because we were trained on how to clean them and how to protect them and so forth, and how to work with them.
You said that people can make an appointment who are in the Pine library system. Is that the system just within BIB, making a BIB, or is it the Pine system throughout Georgia?
Throughout Georgia.
Nice. Okay, we have a comment here, a question. What an amazing gift to your community. I wish I lived nearby so I could use the memory lab. Is the $100 Epson scanner you showed able to be used at home to convert negatives?
You can purchase your own and do it as well at home, yes.
We had a comment from Brown that said, thanks for the presentation, we enjoyed it. A question is, how long were you in the DC Public Library for training, and how many of you?
There were two of us that went, myself and Micah Newsom. We left the hotel and learned how to use the DC metro system, and then take transfer buses, because the first day I went right when I should have went left, but we got there. And we spent 4 days at the Northwest branch. The first one was getting acquainted and learning terminology about the libraries and so forth, and what the technology we were looking at, because a lot of it was foreign to us. And then we had to listen to videos talking about digital modulation and so forth, and it's still a little foreign to me when I hear all those terms, because I'm like patrons, I just want to get it done. And then with the next 2 days, we actually took apart technology and went inside to see what the VCR was made of, where we need to work and so forth. And they actually brought out other types of equipment that we do not use, but they collect just to show us examples. And we actually had visitors also from other libraries, such as the Frederick County Library in Virginia, who had set up a lab before the DC Public set up. So the DC Memory Lab project is good in that you've got people to turn to and questions, and like you get this list of equipment and things that you need. But there are other labs that are working, but as of right now, I don't know of any others in Georgia.
Okay, you said you had 31 repeat customers?
Yes.
Do you think it's because people are feeling comfortable with using it, so they're coming back and know, okay, I can do this?
Yes, I certainly do, because like I said, I've talked to a few people who said, I'm coming, but I've got to sort through everything. They want to make sure that what they're scanning is what they really want to keep and protect. Because as we know, any of us that have Polaroid, the old Polaroids, they fade. And then a lot of the old images that people took with Olin Mills and so forth, the photographs don't last so long. So a lot of people are trying to go through. As I said, I'm not sure how many photographs are going to be for this generation will be out there, because everybody takes pictures with their cameras and they don't download and print them out. Whereas, you know, my generation and previous generations, we took thousands of pictures. Only one of them might come out with the camera, but we took thousands of pictures, and you went and found the one that you liked best. So I know people are going through what they have. And, you know, I talked to people before I left Macon to tell them I was going to DC to work on a memory lab. And I was actually surprised at how many people knew what they were. They'd heard about it on the radio, so they had kind of an idea, and they were getting very excited.
Yeah. What has been the response of people who actually use the memory lab? Is there a lot of excitement? Is it
shock that you can, that this is available free? Because like our lady in the video, she said she looked at the cost of it and it was outrageous. And another thing is, people are so happy they don't have to package it and put it in the mail and keep their fingers crossed that it gets to the converter and back to them all in one piece. So knowing that it's in their hands, they don't have to worry about anything happening to it. We've had tears of joy. Just people are flabbergasted that, you know, we're no longer the library of just books. You're the library that's starting to provide more of what the public needs.
I think it's great that it's in the Pine system. It's open to so many more people.
Mm-hmm.
We have a comment here. It's, thank you for creating this service. My family documents and videos are rotting away in the basement. What would you suggest to this person that made this comment about videos?
Well, I think the first thing is to get them out of the basement, because the heat, remember you're in Georgia now, the heat and the cold are not our friends here. And you can go through it, because some people still have working VCRs and they have looked through the videos themselves to see if there's anything worth keeping. Because if it's like my mother, I have like 50 videos that she had stacked They could be, you know, soap operas on tape. I have no clue because I don't have a working VCR to go through everything. We do explain to people, and it's in our policies, you know, you cannot save anything that's copyrighted. Like we had somebody, we talked about this in our classes, you know, no, you cannot do anything Disney. Do not go near Disney things. So you get them out of the basement and bring them up and dust them off and look at them and just, you know, you can come on in. I mean, people have come in and just brought their VHS tapes and looked through them and said, nope, I don't need to keep this. Nope, I don't need to keep this. Oh, I just want this small section here, you know, of this program we were doing and so forth.
Muriel, have you used your VHS tapes? Did you have any that did you use the memory lab yourself?
I can't get to it yet. I do have, I mean, I have my wedding video. I said, oh, I'd love to get that converted. I'm afraid to put it in my VCR because it needs a good cleaning on it. As we know, if you put it on a tape in a VCR and it's not clean, you pull it out and you have a stream of video. So I need to protect it, but I have to, like everyone else, I have to make an appointment and try to get in to the memory lab, but most of the time when I'm there, somebody else has already booked it.
Oh, we have one other question. Let's see, let me click on this. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, here's the comment. You mean I can't copy my original 1977 Star Wars?
No, they will find you. They will track you down.
I know exactly who was joking. I think that is all the questions.
Okay, well, you know, you're welcome to stop by. You can encourage your library directors and individuals to come by because people can set up their own. If you're part of the DC Memory Lab, you have to be part of a public library. But that's not to say that historical societies and libraries can't get together and set up a memory lab for their community. You're welcome to come visit and we'll be glad to talk to you, forward you some of the documents that we got and what we needed to do and set up. And we look forward to seeing and getting more questions. You just need to go to our library website, which is www.biblib.org. That's BIBBLIB.org. And then you go into library services and you'll see the memory lab and you can see the videos as well as the contract applications that people sign and how we handle that. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Muriel. This was great. This was a wonderful presentation. As somebody who's actually taken VHS tapes and had them converted, very expensive. So this is absolutely terrific. And thank you for coming all the way to the Georgia Archives. We appreciate it. This was very, very good. I'm going to share with you some of our presentations. In September, we have two. For our lunch and learn on Friday, September the 10th, our presentation will be Georgia Politics by Dr. Charles Pollock. For our fourth Friday from the archives, this is going to be on September the 24th. Our presentation by archivist Amanda Morose will be a new collection at the Georgia Archives, the Downtown Development Design Assistance Materials. The collection includes the Georgia Downtown Main Street program, which began in 1980. Towns and cities from all across Georgia took advantage of this program. Thrown in with a short history of town development in Georgia, come and see a sampling of the plans, maps, documents, and photographs housed in this collection. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you will join us again in September.